Hello, friends, and welcome to Life in Layers. My name is Ashley. I'm a licensed cosmetology educator and behind the chair stylist, beauty mentor, and a wife and mom who is building a beauty empire right here in Oklahoma. With small town roots and a big love for beauty, this podcast is meant to inspire confidence, build entrepreneurship, balance family, faith, business, and personal growth, all while navigating the many layers of life that shape who we are. I created it for people just like me, people who are chasing big dreams, building something meaningful, and trying to balance it all. If you love a little pink, glam, beauty, and real conversations, then you're in the right place. Whether you're getting ready for your day, driving to work, or just needing a little inspiration, I'm glad you're here. Let's do Life in Layers together. Welcome to Life in Layers. I'm excited to have you join us today here in the Pink Parlor. My name is Ashley and I'm your host. Today's topic is titled Beyond the Scoreboard. We're talking about what sports really teach us, far beyond wins and losses and stats. If you've ever played a sport, coached, or even just watched from the sidelines, you know it's never just about the game. Today we're diving into discipline, competition, lessons that stick with you for life, and how all that carries over into adulthood, parenting, and just being an overall better person. Okay, so today's episode is a little special because I've got my younger brother here with me in the Pink Parlor. So I'd like to introduce you to, I say my little brother, although he's taller than me, but this is my brother Krezimer. He's a husband, a dad, and a coach to his daughter's t-ball team. He's played sports growing up. Let's see, you played football, baseball,
basketball, wrestled.
You were on the bowling team, which you were even an all-state bowler, which is pretty impressive. And now he's also a published author. So he's got a lot of perspective when it comes to discipline and competition and how these lessons carry over into real life. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, Krez. Welcome to the Pink Parlor.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining the podcast. I'm excited about this too because he's my first actual guest, which I'm also excited about the future of Life in Layers because I am planning to bring on more guests in future episodes, but Krez is our first, so that's exciting. So let's start here. Since sports has been such a big part of your life, tell us more about the sports you played and how did it shape your work ethic?
So I didn't start actually playing Little League till I was probably about 14. So by the time I had gotten to that point, I had already kind of, from our dad, obviously, he kind of instilled into me that, like, you know, if you want to do something, do it right. Don't do things, you know, halfsies.
And our dad was always into sports.
Yes.
So he was,
and that made it easy.
Yes, he grew up loving sports in general and following statistics and knowing a lot about players. So and just a little bit of backstory about our relationship. So I'm the oldest. We have a sister who is about 3 years younger than me. And then mom and dad took a break, I guess, if you want to say. It was just me and Shannon for a while. And then when Shannon was about 7, they had you.
Had me.
And so that makes us 10 years difference in age. And then we have another brother Desmond, he kind of slipped in
He
there.
did. He was an accident.
Yeah, he wasn't really planned, but because you and Desmond are only like 21 months apart,
Something like that. Yeah.
so it ended up actually working out really well because me and Shannon were so much older than you boys that you would have grown up essentially kind of like almost like an only child.
Yeah.
So having Desmond and him being a boy too really was great for you two boys and being so close in age to grow up together. It was like mom and dad did have two separate families,
Yeah.
but so dad was, I would say, was pretty excited when he finally got boys because of the sports aspect and being able to share with you boys the love of sports.
Yeah, and that was, it helped us tremendously. We didn't have to, even though dad would come out and play, catch and play basketball and all that stuff with us, we didn't have to depend on him to come out there after he, worked all day. We could just play catch,
play together.
And that's honestly how we learned how to play. Obviously dad taught us things, but I mean, we were out there in the backyard by ourselves, teaching ourselves to throw the ball, catch the ball, and just watching sports constantly, trying to emulate what you see on TV. And
so you did mention a little bit about the sports you did play, like organized sports per se. What? Tell us a little more about the sports you played.
So I started out. I actually started out playing rec basketball first. That was the first organized sport.
The Optimist Club basketball?
Yes, that me and Des both got to play, and then we moved into getting to play Little League Baseball. And it was great. Those are some of my fondest memories, just getting to go out there and finally start getting to do it, because we didn't get to do it growing up. With dad really being the only one that worked, and mom just, had her babysitting business. There wasn't a whole lot of, and you got 4 kids in the house, so we didn't get to participate in a lot of sports until really you and Shannon were out of the house.
Yeah, that probably made that a little bit easier. Is that lessened a lot of the responsibilities,
the financial stuff,
and the responsibilities that needed to happen. But you, as you got older into like middle school and high school, you did start playing more sports, and by that time I was married already, and actually my husband Wayne has even had, I'd say, somewhat of a little bit of an impact in your sports history, because we went to many games, even outside of the town we lived in, and I know he helped do some things with your sports teams
he did
too.
He did coach one year with when we played basketball at the Optimist Club. Him and our dad was the coaches for one of our teams. So, but
I remember specifically you boys playing like football and baseball specifically when you were in high school for Norman Tigers, and and mom was part of the booster club, and she somehow wrangled me into helping with all that stuff as well, decorating lockers before games and doing, working concession stands. And I thought, how did I get into this? But anyways, it was fun. We were that was what our Friday nights were, is watching you boys play football.
It was Tuesday nights our freshman year, and then it became Monday nights on JV, and then it was Friday nights on.
And it wasn't just, we also traveled to many places wherever you played too. Wayne and I were newly married. We didn't have Sophie yet, so we basically, I guess we didn't really have much else to do, so we just tagged along and went. So you played football, baseball, you did a little bit of wrestling.
I did wrestle one year, and I people that have never done it, that was probably the hardest sport I've ever
really
been in. Yes, physically, the conditioning that has to go into it. I didn't have to cut weight too many times. A few times I did, but man, I tell you what, wrestling is on another level. But it taught me more probably than all the other ones did. Because you have to, especially if you're one of those wrestlers that you have to depend on cutting weight. You have to really be more disciplined, watching what you eat. making sure that you're taking care of yourself, obviously, but you have to really be disciplined on.
Okay. Well, we'll get into a little bit more too of the discipline, but so okay, this is a fun one. The year, what was it, your senior year? Norman High decided to put together a bowling team.
It was my junior year.
Oh, junior year. Okay,
yeah,
so that was the first ever bowling team. And you guys, and I know Wayne, and well, all of us in the family like to bowl.
Yeah.
And we bowled recreationally. So when they put together a bowling team for the school, you and Des were like all over that.
It was kind of in between baseball season or toward the end of baseball season before we, went back to football off season. So we were kind of like, we need something to do. Like we want to, and we both loved bowling.
Yeah.
And so we tried it, and surprisingly, we got pretty good at it.
Yeah.
We went to state our junior year, and it's still a big thing now. High school bowling, high school bowling is still a big thing now.
And
that's been what?
Oh, it's been
23 years, something like that.
Has it been that long that you've been out of high school?
I graduated in 06, and it's 20 years, I guess. 20 years.
So you though were an all-state bowler from that team, that school year, and then I would say you have a lot of experience in playing multiple types of sports. What do you think? How has playing sports, being part of the organized sports, how has it shaped your work ethic?
Well, the biggest thing is accountability. Making sure you're doing your job for people to succeed, or if you're working, your company to succeed, or whatever the case. Punctuality, and just that's the biggest thing. Just being there for everyone else. If you're not team player. If you're not there, you're the other people are having to pull your work. So that's the biggest thing. It's just
So let me ask you this question about like discipline with sports. Do you think that comes naturally, or is it something you had to learn the hard way?
I would say it came easy for me just because of how my dad was with us. Like, we were pretty disciplined pretty well in the house if we stepped out of line. So it didn't, I didn't have an issue with, being told what to do, and I didn't have like an attitude with it or anything like that. I think it depends on the person.
Do you feel like discipline isn't necessarily motivation, but consistency?
I think you have to be consistent with it. And once you're consistent with something, then it becomes second nature it becomes second nature to whoever it is. If you get someone in there you get an athlete in there and they're not used to being told where they need to be, when they need to be there. It's kind of a culture shock to them, and you can get some fight back at first.
Yeah.
But then once you're just consistent with it, then eventually they're, fall in line, as they say.
Yeah. So was there ever a moment when you felt like it clicked for you?
Like clicked for me in what?
In like being part of the team and the game and playing the game. Just
it all came pretty. It clicked from day one.
Okay.
Because that was what I enjoyed to do. So anytime I got the opportunity to play, or it was like second nature. Because it was what I love to do. So, and anytime you love to do something, it's always going to be easy.
Yes. It's kind of like that saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That can be kind of tied into like everything.
Yeah.
If, sports, there are people who get paid to play, obviously. But if their love for the game is that, true and they have that passion, then they don't feel like they're working.
Right.
And I guess they're
a lot of them would pay. Well, for people like me who would say I would go out there and play for free if I could.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're left for the game.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess they're the lucky ones that they're getting paid to play.
They're getting paid. Yeah.
So I feel like sports teaches you to show up even when you don't feel like it, and that translates directly into adulthood.
Yeah.
Because as adults, we always say how much adulting sucks.
Yeah.
Being an adult sucks. Like, we can't wait to be one, and then we find out how actually crappy it is.
It's like, oh, man,
yeah.
I wish I could go back.
We don't have the luxury to not show up. We have to get up. We have to go to work. We have to make a living. We have to support our families and whatnot. So, I feel like, that's just, it ties directly into adulthood. But I think it's really cool too that now that you are coaching your daughter's t-ball team, so you're not just talking about these lessons, but you're actually passing them down.
Yep.
So speaking of showing up, let's talk about what happens when things don't go your way. So losing versus winning. I mean, losing,
it sucks.
It teaches you more than
it
teaches you more than winning actually ever could.
Yep.
So,
and it's very true. And people that have never played sports, and they hear someone say that, they're like, "No, you're nuts." It's like, no, it really does, because at the end of the day, if you lose, especially as a coach, and I tell my girls this all the time, I can teach them how to throw a ball. I can teach them how to hit the ball. I can teach them how to catch the ball. I can't teach them hustle, and I can't teach them their attitude. So if we go into a game and we lose, I can look back and go, okay, we lost because you didn't catch that ball, or we lost because you didn't hit that ball, or whatever the case may be. And if we win, there's nothing really to. You win, and it's just, and I say this from my personal experience. Whatever sport I was in, if we won, it was out of my mind. It was already gone. We won, it's on to the next one. We lost, I would sit there and just beat myself over the head. What could I have done better? What? And
unfortunately, there can't be two winners. Somebody has to lose, and sometimes you got to take your licks and keep moving on.
Yep.
Figure out what you did that maybe you can improve on for the next round.
Yep.
So, do you ever remember a time that a loss stuck with you more than a win?
Probably my freshman year at Norman High. And we got beat by Norman North. And it was the first time that...
That's a big rivalry, too.
Well, it was the first time that a Norman North team had beaten a Norman High team in football. Freshman, JV, senior, varsity, whatever. It was the first time a Norman North team had beaten a Norman High team. And it drove me nuts. Because, first of all, I didn't want to be known as the year that got beat by them. But so that one always stuck with me for a long time. Obviously, I had to wait another year before I got another shot at it, but that one was always one that bugged me.
So how do you handle losing back then versus how you handle setbacks now? And when I ask that, I'm kind of like, because now you're not, and this isn't directly tied to like coaching your daughter's t-ball team, but now you're an adult. And I think it's important that, we're talking a lot about sports here, but the thing about sports, and when we're talking about losing and winning and the discipline, how that carries over into our adulthood, like we just mentioned. So when, handling losing back then versus the way you handle setbacks now.
Well, back then, losing was the end of the world.
Yeah, because we thought it literally was. Yes,
because you have nothing else. You have nothing else going on for you. That's all you got. I had school, and I had my sports.
Yeah.
So losing back then was the end of the world.
That's true.
That's
an interesting way to look at that. Yeah.
Now you have a setback as an adult. You got to, and it took me obviously years and years to learn this, but you just have to. There's another day.
Yeah, I remember how, I think it's interesting too about how, like, when we have setbacks as adults now, and this obviously comes with age, maturity, wisdom, and you are fixing to be 40, so you're no longer a youngster.
No,
I mean,
no, I'm not.
And of course, I said I'm 10 years older than him, so if he's fixing to be 40, do the math there. Anyways, but I remember a time when Wayne and I were very first married, like just months, and we went to Frontier City, and he had gotten his paycheck, cashed it, his entire paycheck was in his wallet at Frontier City, and he lost his wallet. And I had such a meltdown at Frontier City because we had, not only was that, our grocery money, and I needed to pay the electricity bill.
Yeah.
And he had it all in there. So I was just hysterical almost, because I was thinking, how am I going to pay the electricity bill? How am I going to buy groceries what are we going to do till next payday? We got to have gas. And I was crying at Frontier City because we had just realized he's lost his wallet with all his money in it. And Dad was there, and he said, "Why are you crying?" Because to me it was the end of the world. And he said, crying and having this meltdown is not going to make this situation better.
That's what and a lot of people think you don't care about stuff when you just have like a very relaxed personality about stuff. Like me, my wife would call me and be like, "Hey, our car's broke down. What are we going to do?" I could do two things. I can freak out and I can have a meltdown, or I can sit there and go, "Okay, it's broke down. So what do we do now?
Yeah.
What's the next step?"
Yeah. Okay. So what's our options? How do we
and like you said, it takes years to figure it out.
Well, and I remember that so vividly, him saying, "Why are you crying?"
Yeah.
I thought, oh my God, this is the end of the world. And he's like, "We'll help you. You're not going to starve.
Yeah.
Your electricity's not going to get cut off. We'll manage this, but there's no point in crying and having a meltdown over this, because that doesn't change anything." And so over the years, I've learned that when I have setbacks, I can have the meltdown, or I can just be like, I'm going to figure this out. And as you get older and more mature and you get more wisdom, you quit crying and having the meltdowns, and you think, okay, how am I going to fix this?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of related to like the wins and the losses. Like, you can cry over the losses, or you can say,
figure out what I need to do better to make sure I'm winning next time.
Yes. And the setbacks. And so that ties into, how we relate to things in adulthood with our setbacks. I mean, winning feels good, obviously, but losing builds character.
Yeah, for sure.
Learning how to deal with those hard moments makes us stronger, makes us the people that we end up ultimately turning into, wouldn't you say? So, do you think kids today are taught how to lose well?
No.
I knew I was going to get that answer.
No, I don't. I don't feel that, and that's one of the biggest. And I know people are going to watch this and be like, "Everyone's a winner." That's not the truth. And
because not everybody can win, somebody's got to lose.
But when you go in with that mindset that everyone's a winner, you're not teaching anything. You're not doing anyone any good.
That's right.
And that's why I'm so glad that the organization that Kenzie plays for and that I'm coaching, don't get me wrong, they don't, they'll get a little something, but it's going to be like, no, we lost, but these are the things that we're going to do to make sure we're winning next time. I'm not a fan of consolation prizes, participation trophies. I am not I am not a fan of those.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, it doesn't really teach a
No.
lot for the, if you think about it in the real prospect of being in sports, and
Yeah.
it's not teaching them.
And it's not teaching them anything once they get to a certain age in
Yeah,
life.
because if you're getting a participation trophy every time, and you grow up playing sports, and then one day you don't get that,
then it's going to be like, and it works
that
like
makes
that.
no, that's a hard lesson for
It's
them
the same
to learn.
thing even once you get out into the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
That promotion I wanted, that was my goal. I didn't get it. Well, I don't care about the pizza you just gave me for that consolation prize. I don't want that pizza.
Yeah.
I wanted that promotion.
Yeah.
So
the promotion is what helps me with my paycheck.
That's right.
Too. Yeah.
I feel like it's almost more insulting.
Yeah.
And patronizing to give someone a participation trophy.
Yeah. So you don't. I think this is interesting. You don't grow when everything goes right, but you grow when you have to figure things out.
Yeah.
So a lot of how we learn to handle those moments comes from people leading us. Coaches, per se. Coaches can really make or break your experience, and some of their words can stick with you forever. Was there
good or bad?
Yeah,
good or bad.
Exactly.
Sometimes you learn from coaches what not to do, or if you want to get into coaching, how to be different.
That is true of, I would say, pretty much anyone in a leadership role. Because you can even say that about your boss or your mentor or your supervisor or even your teacher, your instructor.
You're going to learn something. You're going to learn either A, this is how it needs to be done, or B, maybe we'll try something different.
Yes, exactly. So was there a coach who really impacted you, and what did they teach you?
I had a coach. One of my football, he was my positions coach when I played football, and I learned a lot from him. One, you can't take everything too seriously. Like the game, yes, at the end of the day, it's a game. That's what it is. You're going out there to play a game. You can't take it too seriously. You have, obviously you pick your moments, but that was one of the biggest things I learned from him is just have fun with it.
Did you ever have a tough coach that you didn't appreciate until later, when you were older and you realized maybe he did know a little bit of what he was talking about or what he was doing? No. Okay.
No. No, I did not, and because I grew up in a different, I don't want to say era, but my coaches, specifically my football coaches, they're from a different era. So they were teaching things. They had their way of coaching that didn't always resonate with the new group of people coming in. So it was hard to kind of take lessons from them. So
what was there something that maybe a coach might have said that still plays in your head today?
I had a coach one time, and I'm not gonna name names or nothing, but I had a coach one time tell me that I wasn't good enough and he could find someone better. And that has, it's been 20 years, and that still bugs me to this day.
Do you think that situation was he trying to use reverse psychology on you?
And when I go back to, and I'm thinking now as I'm a coach, being a coach is hard because not only, coaches that get into the business of coaching, they know what they're doing as far as teaching you the game. The hard part about coaching is finding out the way each person wants to be coached. Managing the personalities.
Yeah.
Because
kind of like raising kids.
Yeah.
You can't raise both kids equally the same because they're not the same person.
Exactly. So looking back, I realized, like, by him screaming and yelling stuff like that at me, that is probably his way of wanting me to get motivated. But you're not that type. I'm not that type of player.
Yeah, that might work on somebody else.
Yeah, it would work on someone else. But for me,
didn't help you per se.
For me, I don't mind the screaming and yelling. I prefer when you're screaming and yelling at me, you're telling me what I need to do to be
Yeah,
better.
I feel like you're the type of person that needs to hear, because if you're being told you're not good enough, I'll just find someone better, and you're saying okay.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I said. Okay, well, I guess go ahead and do it.
And you're the type of person that needs to hear, look, Krez, you did this good, but I know you can do better.
Well, it's not even that. It's more of like, hey, Krez, I know you messed this up, but this is how you got to fix it.
Yeah.
So, and like, corrective criticism is what I'm...
Let's improve this and work on this.
You missed that tackle because you didn't get your head across and you didn't line your body up. That's why you missed that tackle. Do that.
His way of using that reverse psychology, maybe it worked on other players, but it didn't work for you. And you have to, I think that's, pretty much... like that's how we have to think about when we're raising our children. And I only have one, but you have two.
Yeah.
If you're raising more than one child, you have to raise them according to like their personality
and how they take information in.
Yes, what their needs are and how that they respond to things, because what might work on child A may not work with child B.
And a perfect example. My oldest, she doesn't care about getting spanked. It doesn't bother her. What upsets her is when she has to go to the corner. My son, on the other hand, once I spank him, he's no, don't do that again, please. So that's just like sports. I mean, you can yell and scream at one player that they're no good, and they'll get better. Another player you're going to do it, they're just like, well, forget it then. I'm not even going to waste my time anymore. So
yeah. So it's kind of interesting how something that is said in a random practice can stick with you for years, because that has stuck with you for a long time.
It has stuck with me for 20 years. And, so I guess it would be hard to say that he didn't have an impact on me, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a good impact.
Yeah.
Something like that has always bothered me.
Yeah. Well, I also feel like good coaches, they don't just build athletes, but they build people.
Yeah. They help you build your character is what they do. And, so I always try to make sure I'm putting my best effort forward. Because, no one wants to be told they're not good enough. I mean, that's always...
Yeah, we want to hear more praise than negativity,
Yeah, and
sometimes, you have to...
It just depends on the person. Some people maybe that's what motivates them. Well, I am going to show him I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about competition and the healthy aspect of that. So I feel like competition sometimes gets a bad rep, but it can actually be something that's really positive. So do you think that competition pushes people to be better or creates pressure?
I'm a huge believer in competition, because the big thing is it pushes you to be better than you were the day before. Just for instance, when I was bowling, like when I went bowling, when I first started on the bowling team, I wasn't very good. I mean, I probably 120, but I was out there with a couple different guys that were already established bowlers. And I go in each day at practice and I'm competing with those guys to get as good as those guys and to push past those guys.
And maybe there's things that they were probably showing you.
Yeah. And I'm learning
to improve your game.
That's the other thing too. You're learning as you're competing with these other guys. I'm seeing the things that they're doing to make them successful, and that's the things I want to do. So I believe competition is always it's a plus.
I think it's interesting too to be able, like the things that we're talking about have such an impact in multiple areas of our life, which is why the title of my show is Life in Layers, because life is layered. We're talking about sports, we're talking about competition and the lessons it teaches you to carry into adulthood. But there was something you just said that you learned, you weren't very good, you were there but you wanted to learn, you were learning from other seasoned bowlers. that is something we can do every day in life. A lot of my students uh, follow my podcast and view it. We can learn. They can learn from their instructors. They can learn from other people that have been in the business. I know that when I first started out in my cosmetology career, I learned a lot in school from my instructors, but I went straight out into the industry and no experience sitting in a salon, waiting, realizing I don't know what I'm doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have made a huge mistake because I'm not ready for this. And someone, I've talked about her before on this podcast, but she took me under her wing and she mentored me
Mm-hmm.
and she showed me the way and she taught me, and honestly, she has made me she had a huge impact on me and helped make me the stylist that I am today. And not only the stylist, but she taught me things that I use in my teaching career.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be able to be just like her and be a mentor to my students or to people who watch me work and inspire them and help build their confidence and teach them things, because we all need someone. We never stop learning.
No.
And we learn every day whether we realize it or not. So, us talking about sports and the lessons it's taught us into our adulthood, competition, healthy competition, these are all things that it's really, if you think about it, it's just ties into being an adult,
Right.
And living our life. So, do you think that? How do you balance healthy competition without it becoming toxic? I mean, you're coaching your t-ball team,
Right. Right. It's a you as a coach, you have to find out what that line is.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to push them too hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I've learned. Like, you want to push them to the point where we I tell them, like, hey, we have to learn these certain skills because these certain skills are going to help us along the way. And once you get out there and you're teaching them, and you can see it on there, especially a kid's with the kids I work with, I can see it on their faces when they're just like, okay, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'm done for today.
I'm done for the day, or I need to move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's when competition gets toxic, when you're sitting there saying, like, I need to win so bad, or I need to do, whatever the thing is that I'm making it not fun for someone,
Mm-hmm.
or it's not fun for someone anymore because you're just like relentless with your teachings.
Yeah.
And it can be like that wherever you're. I mean, it can be like that in work or whatever the case may be.
Let me ask you this question though, because your daughter,
mm-hmm.
she's 6 years old,
mm-hmm.
and you guys have been having her play. She started Wii ball, and now she's into T-ball.
Mm-hmm.
Soon T-ball moves into just regular softball.
Moves into kid or coach pitch, and then it moves into kid pitch. Yeah.
Okay, and eventually, softball. And
mm-hmm.
I have watched her progress immensely from when she very first started.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I am very impressed because she's got a lot of strength behind her hitting.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's a good little power hitter.
Yes, that credit goes to her mom, because her mom is the hitting coach.
Works with
team.
her.
Yeah,
okay.
So.
Well, my question is, and this is an honest question because I obviously didn't play sports. Do you ever feel like there is the chance that she might, like, she has the potential to be like a
mm-hmm.
rock star softball player?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe even get a scholarship to play softball because she's been learning the fundamentals
mm-hmm.
at such an early age, and she can only improve every day. But do you worry that maybe at some point she might get burnt out on the sport and come to you and say, Dad, I'm done playing softball. I don't want to do it anymore?
I'm trying to avoid that happening. And the reason the reason the kids get burnt out so much, and that you can is because of how much effort they put into it.
Mm-hmm.
Or well, not so much effort, but how much they do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you get burnt out on something.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it all, so you have to find a nice balance
Of it still being fun.
Of still making it fun,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still getting their practice, their reps in, but not pushing them so much where it's like become almost a chore instead of it just being a game.
Yeah.
So, as a coach, and I have to do it with all my players, not just my daughter, but I have to, you have to, like for, in our, I know some T-ball teams out there that practice 3 or 4 times a week. And I'm sitting there thinking, that's
too much.
So too much for
They're
5 or 6 year old. Yes. Yeah. And that's what I'm glad about the organization that I'm with, is we're very conscious about making sure we get our reps in and stuff, but we don't want to overwork these girls because most people, and if you have kids, 5 or 6 year olds, their attention span for anything is out the window. So one day my daughter could love it, and then if she's had to play too much or practice too much, the next day she could be like, I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah. It's too much work.
Yeah.
So, and that's what you don't want to hear when it comes to sports. You don't want them to walk in and go, it's just too much work. Because it's not work. It's supposed to be fun. It's a game.
Right. So. Right. Well, I feel like competition teaches resilience. It teaches confidence. So it's not always about beating others, but it's about pushing yourself.
Yes, and that's where I tell my girls. That's why I tell my girls, like, hey, the amount of hustle is going to be on you. I can't coach that. I can't coach you to hustle. Okay, I can yell at you and I can scream at you, but at the end of the day, it's up to you whether or not you choose to, you put in what you're going to get out of it. If you put the bare minimum in it, that's what you're going to get out of it. You're not going to feel like you have gone further than you thought you could. So that's one of the biggest things, is just making sure that they're willing to put everything they got into it.
So we've talked a lot about sports in general, organized sports, competition, healthy competition, winning and losing. Let's look at how we can, I guess, apply these things to life and parenting, because we're adults now.
Right.
We're not middle schoolers playing, Optimist basketball.
Right.
We have grown up. We've gotten married. We have children that we're raising. We have to get up and go to work every day to support our families and make a living. Sometimes we change our course in the path of our journey, and we start over in midlife,
right,
with our the way we do things. We do a complete turnaround and start over. But I mean, that's one thing we can't escape, is growing older and becoming adults. So I guess the biggest thing, these lessons, they don't stay on the field.
No.
They follow you into life. So how have these lessons shaped you as an adult?
Well, like I said, you learn discipline is a big thing. And that just, you have to be disciplined in your whatever you do in life. If you're at your job, making sure you're there on time, making sure you're there, doing your job right. And when you're a parent, you have to realize people are counting on you. It's no longer you worrying about yourself. Like, my kids count on me to go to work and make that money for them to have nice things.
Just even putting a roof
on their head, making sure they've got electricity for their tablets and whatever the case may be,
food on the table and clothes to wear. Yes,
it's just discipline is the biggest thing that I took away from sports, and accountability. If I haven't done something right, I have to figure out what it was that I didn't do right and fix it. Kind of thing.
Well, do you carry any of these lessons that you've learned into your parenting style?
For sure. Especially accountability. If making sure that if your kid does something wrong, you know, that they own that.
Yeah.
They don't
understand
they
what they
understand,
did, it
yeah,
how why they're
yeah,
in trouble,
yep.
and yes, yeah. So, what do you want your kids or the next generation to learn from sports?
Man, just ultimately, it is fun and it's a game,
Mm-hmm.
and don't always take it too seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, learn learn that the things that you learn while you're playing sports are going to help you later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two biggest things that I would hope that Kenzie, and hopefully when Creed starts playing, that they'll realize, you know, these lessons that me or whoever is coaching them are, that they're teaching them, that they're going to help them later on down the life,
Mm-hmm.
later on in life.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I feel like teaching kids discipline and respect,
mm-hmm.
how they handle failure,
Yeah,
that's bigger than any trophy.
it is. Yeah, what they learn, because that trophy will rot and rust away.
Well, and it just
And
becomes another thing
yeah,
that,
and
I
I
mean,
have trophies that I have stored away, and
uh-huh.
they're wherever they
and
are.
eventually, the shrine came down.
Yeah.
I mean, Mom held on to y'all's
Mm-hmm.
stuff for a long
Yeah.
time after y'all moved out. Y'all's rooms were
Yep.
still the same with all of your plaques and your trophies and whatnot.
Yep.
And eventually,
They came down.
it came down.
But the lessons I learned, stuck with me. And,
they're the impact there.
And then I'm teaching them to my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yeah, life lessons are so much more valuable than the hardware.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, it's not about who you become, or I'm sorry, it's not about the win, but it's who you become.
Yeah. Yep.
So, well, I've asked you lots of questions. You've gave lots of valuable insight and information. Is there anything else you want to add into? Because we talked a little bit about this before setting down to really go through it all, and you said I have lots of information. So.
My biggest one is just any parent who's trying to get their kids into sports, don't push them to the fact where they hate it. That's the worst thing, is when I've heard, especially kids when I went to high school, I'd be like, hey, why don't you play sports? Well, I don't like them. I hate them. I tried, but I just didn't like it. And it's like, okay. And then now as an adult and seeing things, I'm like, okay, I understand now why some kids just hate the sports, because they get into it.
It may just not be an interest.
Well,
to, but,
and that's true. That's true. Some kids just don't like them.
Yeah.
And and that's fine. But the kids that have gone into it and then came away going, I hated it. More 9 times out of 10, it's because the parents just want to put so much pressure on them to get better, or their parents had them playing a tournament every they didn't get to be a kid.
Yeah.
So you have to find that fine line to, hey, play, but also remember that they are a kid, and that they sometimes the kid needs a break too.
Yeah. Well, this is exactly what Beyond the Scoreboard is all about. Looking past the game and into the lessons that really matter. Another thing that I want to share with our viewers is, we mentioned that Kresmer is a published author. You recently just wrote your first book.
Yes.
Is there a second book in the works, or
it is?
Okay.
I am currently writing another book. It's not a sequel or anything to that one. But
okay. Well, this is Kresmer's first book that he just wrote. He can add the word published author onto
my resume.
This is Colgate by Day, Fang by Night. It is a fiction book about vampires, and this is available on Amazon, by the way. But why don't you tell us what prompted you to write a book? Not many people, I mean, I guess we don't know many people that write books. So here we are in the presence of a person who actually sat down and wrote a book.
It was something that I'd always wanted to do, I'd always thought about writing a book. I wrote throughout high school, mainly poetry and stuff like that. Anytime I had tried to write a book in the past, I would get to a point where I'd have writer's block, and I would try to force myself to write, and then eventually I'd get fed up and just throw it away. This time, and with mature and aging, and you mature, I go, okay, with this book, if I'd get to a point where I couldn't think of something to write, instead of trying to force it, I would put it away and come back to it in a couple days. And so it was something that I always wanted to do. I think it was also something of proving to people that I could do it, kind of thing. So that's kind of where it came from.
Well, I think it's nice to, as I feel like as we get older, it's nice to, we are always, we're such busy people. We get up and we go to work every single day. It's the same thing sometimes at work. We're doing the same job. And then we come home, we have our family responsibilities, but it's nice to be able to have a hobby, something that you enjoy, something where you can step away from the hustle and bustle of everyday life and do something that you enjoy doing. For me, and sometimes we see those things too as therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
That help us.
Yeah, and that was also one of the
therapeutic.
Yeah, I would get into my writing mode, and it would just be like everything else was just kind of all the stress that I was,
you can leave that behind for a little bit and do this. Yeah. For me, this podcast for one is people laugh at me.
Yeah,
they think
people laughed at me too when I was saying I was writing a book.
This is funny. And I may not have a big, huge crowd of people who are watching or listening, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do this for me.
And that was one of the things I even wrote back on my author zone. I said I knew I didn't write the book thinking I was going to get famous or get rich or anything. I was like, I wrote it because I wanted to write a book.
Yeah. You set a goal for yourself and you wanted to accomplish it.
And it was also something that I wanted to leave behind for my kids. And, one day I hope, that they can sit there and be like, yeah, my dad wrote a book, so why can't I accomplish anything that I want to do in my life?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think
and it's never too late.
And the people who are laughing, that's just, I'm just going to say it, that's like mean girl behavior,
Right.
I mean, why do you laugh at somebody's the goals or dreams or passions that they set? I mean, it was always my passion to be in the beauty industry. I made that happen at 46 years old.
Right.
And I don't regret a day of it. It was the hardest outside of, trying to conceive and going through infertility. Going back to school and starting completely over in a whole new career was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I don't regret it. It was worth every minute of it, and I'm happy and I'm proud of myself. So when we set goals for ourselves, regardless of whatever they may be, being able to accomplish those brings a certain satisfaction.
Oh yeah,
and also pride.
Yeah, and I could have never gotten that book published, but it was just the sense of pride I had just when I finished it in my notebooks. I was like, hey, I wrote a book.
Yeah,
it may not go anywhere, maybe never get published, but I wrote one.
Well, it is been published, and it's available on Amazon, and people are buying it. So that is a goal, and that's something to be proud of.
Yep, and a few people have bought it.
So tell us, just give us a little rundown on what this book is about.
So when I wrote the book, most books are always from a female's perspective, as far as like for vampire books, those who read Twilight and all this stuff. It's about the male vampire pursuing the human woman. And a lot of other vampire stuff is like that. And I was just like, I've never seen or read, maybe, but I've never seen it where it's, the female vampire is pursuing the human man. So I was like, no, I'll go with something like that. I wrote, I set the book in, in a high school, a high school scenario kind of thing. And
yeah.
So it's about, this man or this boy meets a woman, and he's intrigued by her, doesn't know why, and then all these fun events start happening.
Okay. So Colgate,
you got to read it.
Colgate by Day, Fame by Night, available on Amazon. You can download the Kindle version or purchase the hardback or paperback version as well. And it's pretty cool to see your name on top of the
yes,
book.
That was. I will say that was pretty cool getting to see that.
Okay, well, so I guess I just want to kind of end our segment here with this. We talked a lot about sports. So at the end of the day, Beyond the Scoreboard was never just about the game. It's about moments that you don't see in the highlights. It's the discipline when nobody's watching, the losses that shape more than the wins ever could. It's about who you become when the crowd goes quiet. Because the scoreboard, that resets every game. But your character, your resilience, your integrity, that's what carries over into every part of your life. So whether you're winning in this season or walking through a tough one, remember this. The real victory isn't measured in points. It's measured in growth, and it's measured in grit and in who you are when it's all said and done. That's what this is about. That's what Beyond the Scoreboard is about. So if this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who's been shaped by sports or is raising someone who will be in sports, or even someone who is just going through a season in their life. Share, like, and follow. And I want to thank Krez for being on the show today. He brought a lot of valuable insight into the world of sports, and not just how it is in the game, but like we said, beyond the scoreboard.
Sure.
So I'm Ashley. Thank you for joining us today here in the Pink Parlor. Be sure to catch us next month for a brand new topic. Until then, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.